In this video, we'll be looking at who's actually involved in the system lifecycle. And broadly, we have two different parties that are principally involved, and two different entities. One is the customer. This is the business that actually requires and needs the system. They're the ones that have come up with the system, identified some sort of business need, and they're seeking this. Then we have the contractor, the one that's responsible for designing and delivering the system. In some cases, the system may be designed and delivered in-house, and so the customer may be the ones that are designing and delivering it themselves. On the customer side, there's a whole bunch of different people that may or probably should be involved in specifying and developing their system requirements. And people like the board or the CEO or the chairman are the ones that set the direction for the organisation and are the ones that see the big picture of the goals and achievements the organisation's aiming to meet. Then we have business management, and essentially in business management and middle level management, we're looking at people who are implementing the decisions of the board in terms of the activities and the goals and requirements of the business. We then have a series of users and operators, and they're doing the work of making the business profitable and actually using the systems and things to actually do the work that the core business relates to. And typically also we'll have a project manager, someone that's appointed on the customer side to manage the acquisition of the project, and that will fall into their realm of responsibilities. And we have many different stakeholders on the customer side. And when we refer to stakeholders, we're talking about people that will have input or should have input into the acquisition and usage of the system into the future. Now, these might be people that will actually use the system, might be people that will be affected by the system, but affected in a sensible way. If we're talking about, for example, a new rocket that we were trying to acquire as a Department of Defense sort of system, we'd be talking about valid stakeholders as people who are maintenance, for example, procurement, people who will actually be using it and firing it, but we wouldn't be talking about stakeholders being the enemy, for example. We're not going to interview them and see if they're happy with what we're trying to acquire. On a typical business, there's a whole bunch of different people. For example, operational staff, people actually using the system, support staff, maintenance staff, so people that will be repairing the system and keeping it in operation, acquisition and procurement, and they might be responsible, for example, making sure that the system can actually be got in the door or can be supported within the environment, whether it be needing structural support in the flooring or extra power requirements and things in the room. We recently had this in our milling machines and acquisition of our wordjet cutter. A wordjet cutter, for example, is 8 tons, and we need to make sure the floor can support such a weight. Financial is an important one in terms of both not just the acquisition price, but the ongoing costs and the cost of retirement at the end. Management, of course, need to be involved. Supply, legal requirements, and they'll be the ones reviewing and drafting contracts and things, and also admin staff if the system actually affects them as well. Many of these people will help use and be involved in testing and appreciating the system. And if there's key stakeholders that don't like the idea or don't like the system or haven't had their opinions heard or voiced, they may actually work against the system, and they may cause the system to fail in future, not for a technical reason, but for a personal grudge or reason like that. So it's useful to actually engage these people and actually ask them about the system and their opinion, even if not everything is taken on board. And there may be valid reasons for that, and they'll need to be communicated. Now, on the contractor side, we've got several different people involved in the role of producing and creating the system. Firstly, we have the systems engineer, and they're involved in eliciting requirements and assembling the system overview and designing the system as a whole. And we need detailed design engineers, of course, who are going to be looking at the nuts and bolts and subsystems and specifying things and designing them. We'll need testers there to do all our validation, verification, and making sure the system performs to the specifications that we're producing. Depending on the scope of the system, we may need documenters specifically to write all our system documentation and handover and things. We'll have managers looking after these processes, and also legal that will be looking after the contracts and things involved. Now, this graph here, which is pretty much straight from the text, gives us a really nice view of who's involved at different stages through the system lifecycle. We see at the start our business and enterprise management, essentially our board and the people that are setting direction for the company, involved very early on within the pre-acquisition stage, because they've identified a problem, a business need, and they've started working out the requirements of the system that they want to actually solve this particular need. So they're very much involved at the start, and they'll be a little bit involved as they go through in terms of approving various stages of the system. But theirs is very much at the start. That's where they're primarily involved. We then have project management on particularly the business side of things, the customer side of acquiring a system. And they'll be seeking out a contractor that can deliver this system. They'll be reviewing all the documentation and the requirements and things involved. They'll be seeking out stakeholders within their company and managing all those stakeholder needs and requirements and interfacing them with the stakeholder. Then we have the systems engineers in the acquisition stage who will be doing a whole lot of the process relating to formalizing needs and requirements, developing system specifications, and working in concert with the detailed design engineers of mechanical, electrical, or whatever field that they're in to create the system and actually build and design the system. Now, then we have our system users, and we bring them in towards the end of the acquisition stage because they'll need to be involved in the handover and ensuring that the system is the correct system, but principally they'll be involved in the utilization stage, where they're actually using the system on a daily basis to do whatever it happens to be, whether it be some sort of a mechanical manufacturing system, whether it be a software system, who knows what it is, but they're the ones at the end of the day that the system is actually made for because they'll be using it.